Reexamining the employment strategies. The discussion will revolve around progressive culture in an organization and strategic HR plans. The moderator for the discussion is Dr. Asha Naik, Managing Partner, Corporate Consulting Group.
The experts in the panel are Mr. Nikhil Save, HR Head, Mahindra Insurance Brokers Limited, Ms. Priyanka Srivastav, Vice President, Human Resource, Corporate Functions, HDFC Ergo General Insurance, Mr. Saptarishi Bhattacharya, Vice President and Head Talent Acquisition, Bajaj Allianz General Insurance, Mr. Shailen Merchant, Senior Vice President and Head of Human Resources, Chola MS General Insurance, Mr. Sriram N., Senior Vice President, Intellect Design Arena Limited.
Now, I request all the experts to come up on the stage and form the dais. Meanwhile, I'd like to introduce the moderator of the panel, Dr. Asha Naik. She's a managing partner at Corporate Consulting Group, chair professor, National Institute of Bank Management. She has several years of corporate experience in the fields of HR management, sustainable leadership, individual and organizational development. She has done her master's from Tata Institute of Social Sciences and a doctorate in business management from Usmania University. Now, I'd like Harsh to briefly introduce the experts in the panel.
Mr. Nikhil Save. Mr. Nikhil is the perfect combination of effective and efficient leader, a transformational result driven who has capability in developing enriching HR policies at a higher notch. He has a master's degree in HR from SKVM's Narsi Munji Institute of Management Studies.
Mr. Saptirshi Bhattacharya is the Vice President and Head of Talent Acquisition, Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. He joined Bajaj in 2007 as a management trainee and working with it ever since. He is also the recipient of Talent Acquisition Leadership League Award, West in Diversity.
Mr. Shailen Merchant is the Senior Vice President and Head Human Resources at Chola MS General Insurance. A graduate in statistics and an alumnus from Great Lakes Institute of Management, he has rich cross-functional experience in the field of human resource and management, in business development and human resource management over the past 30 years. Apart from the Murgappa Group, he has briefly worked with the Royal Sundaram and Lowy Lintis.
Mr. Shyam Narsimha is the Senior Vice President at Intellect Design Arena Limited, a HR professional with 25 years of experience. He is leading the HR and operations for IC, that is, the insurance arm of Intellect Design. Prior to joining Intellect, he was the first HR head for AIG System Solutions, Quitegra DSQ Software.
Ms. Priyanka Srivastav, a goal oriented professional with nearly 16 years of experience in human resource management and strategic management. She is the Vice President in Human Resource Corporate Finance Sales. She was conferred with ABJ Award and ABC Award in the year 2017 and 2018, respectively.
Now, I will request my colleagues to pleasantly welcome the panel with the bouquet. Now, I request the moderator, Dr. Asha Naik, to begin with the panel discussion and request the audience to get their questions ready for the Q&A at the end of the discussion.
So good afternoon, everybody. We are talking today about the great resignation to the great rebound. And that is our topic, the larger frame of it. But the focus frame of it is how are we going to look at the attritions and then the people to join our organizations. This requires a concentrated effort both by the organizations and the aspirants. So this is a topic that we are going to look at today. I would just request all of you to give your brief views about the topic before we go into some detailed discussions. So can we start with you? A little brief of what you are thinking about the topic. before
Sure.
we move in.
You guys can hear me? Right. I can hear my voice, so obviously you can, right? Good. Okay. Thanks, Asha. And I think just to make it very brief, there's been a significant change in the last 2 years. And I think everything that we are seeing now is unheard or unvisualized or undreamt before. You can see it in two ways. These are challenges or these are new ways that are going to open new doors for us. So along with challenges comes innovative ways of engagement, innovative ways of uplifting overall human index and the performance and the skill. And I think these are great days ahead. Just that we just need to come to terms with the realities.
Thank you. Thanks, Sriram. So, good afternoon, friends. Good to see a lot of youngsters in the crowd and future insurance industry professionals sitting there. Yeah, so just to add to what Mr. Sriram said, I think, yes, the last 2 years have taught us a lot of lessons. We've had to relook at the way we've done the people part of the business. As I guess the main business itself has kind of gone topsy turvy. So the people aspects have changed, and I think along with that, what we've had to do is also relook at the way we had taken things for granted in the people space, the way we hired, the way we retained talent, the way we gave career progressions to the employees. All that has changed. It has kind of turned topsy turvy, as I said. So today, I think as an organization at Chola MS, we are a lot more different than we were 2 years back. We are a lot more flexible. We have started accepting a lot of change. Just to give an example, we have teams that are spread across the country today. They're no longer sitting in the head office. Earlier, we used to insist that people work out of HO because that's where the ecosystem is, that's where the interactions happen. We've got used to using technology to connect with people. There's no interface, face-to-face interactions. Of course, this brings its own set of challenges along with it, which we are learning to cope with and overcome. So that's right. Like you said, it's pretty exciting. We are learning as we go along. There are no preset routes or charts there for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible? Yes. Okay. I think similar. I think we are all from the same industry. At the end of the day, insurance, life insurance, general insurance, broking. Um, yes, the pandemic taught us a lot of things. It also taught us that I think a lot of things we took for granted in terms of how we look at traditional ways of business, how our offices are, how our people are going to be placed in which type of an office, how much do we grow every year, how much do we expand, how much do we recruit, and it really made us sort of take a step back and maybe unlearn, which is also important. And we just realized that, you know what, maybe we were not actually looking the way we should have been 10 years back in terms of growth, in terms of the type of talent that we're looking at. If I just speak about Bajaj Allianz, we have general insurance, a very diverse industry in terms of the talent that we have. We have frontline salespeople, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have retired inspectors from the police. So you can imagine all of them under one roof. And we had these preconceived notions कि हाँ अगर हमें doctor hire करना है तो we need an MBBS, we need to recruit someone from Pune for the head office. And now we just said, if Practo can do medical consulting anywhere on an app, why do we need a doctor sitting in our office? And why should we expect an MBBS to leave all of that and come and join an insurance company? So I think the takeaway was gig, and I can tell you, a company like Bajaj Allianz probably had to fast track this entire model by at least 5-7 years. We would not have thought that a company so traditional, and when I say traditional, we were one of the most aggressive in the industry in any way. But a company so traditional would actually allow a work from home to our population anywhere. So I think, I think along with that also comes the challenges, as Sailesh mentioned, and it's fun. It's a new learning. So we learn, and I think we are agile each step of the way.
Thank you. Priyanka.
Hi, am I audible? Yeah. So, first of all, thank you so much to all of you for a very nice, warm welcome. I am personally very enriched to have such a welcome from the campus. It is a different feeling to visit a campus after so many years. I personally loved it. Um, uh, I mean, in this particular topic, I just have 2-3 lines to say. Pre-pandemic, we were not ready that the scenario will come, and the post-pandemic, and the pandemic has changed the mindset of everybody around, from the organization, how they operate, how the chai walas operate, and how the sabji walas operate. So everybody is operating in a different phase now, in a different world. Are we evolved? Are we there? Have we strategized everything? Answer is no. We were working as Saptarishi said, that we were working in a traditional way, and now we have to go and evolve ourselves and work in a different way, where it may be possible that I do not have 400 offices to operate and sell my product. Maybe I'll just have 50 offices and I operating in all cities in India. Have we reached there? The answer is no. I personally believe that we are still in that passage. I'm sure all of you are fans of Avengers. The every Avenger passes those passages to go into a different world. I feel that we are still in that passage. We redesigning those strategies, and I look forward for this discussion as what comes out. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Please.
So, hello. Okay, so good afternoon to everyone, and thank you to the institute, to all the colleagues here, and I mean, I've come here after 3 years. I used to come here before. It's nice to be here and see you, and probably will be working with you in future sometime. Let me come to the topic. We were talking about VUCA world, and that's when we were talking about the competition and the fears and the customer psyche and how the customer would behave. And then we were getting into the technology and digital world as well. Now, how that will overcome our businesses was still to be understood then. But then the pandemic told us how it would be and how we will work towards it. And that's exactly what we are here for. The entire game has changed today, from we looking at workplace and workforce. Okay, people have started going back to their homes and working from their homes. We are talking about tablets and phones replacing office spaces. We are also looking at gigs against the earlier so-called employment contracts, right? So the entire thing has changed. So with that, I would want Asha to take on this topic ahead. Thank you.
So change. This is the word we heard over and over again today afternoon. So to keep this discussion a little more focused, and so that we don't repeat what happened in the last two panels, we decided that we would talk about this topic in almost 4 parts. The first one is recruitment. How is recruitment changing, both for aspirants like you and the practitioners on the other side? What is the impact of this great resignation towards the great rebound? What role is recruitment playing? That is one set of a few questions. Second is, what are the organization changes coming, both in terms of culture and structure? All my esteemed colleagues have given their views, but we'll go a little deeper. The third is every youngster's dream, compensation. What is happening to the compensation? Can I demand and can I get, or will you fix me in bands? So lovely topic. So we thought we'll spend some time talking about that. And finally, technology. How are we using technology? What will happen to the human connect? I'm one who loves to see faces and hear voices, but how will it impact? It has both positives and negatives. So we thought we will keep our discussion in these 4 areas. I assure the students who have sent their questions that we will definitely take each one of them in the appropriate slots. So guys, are we ready with what is happening in the recruitment front? What are the new strategies for recruiting, for bringing in people? What are the kind of questions that candidates ask? How do we address them. We now won't go in any sequence. Anybody who wants to talk, please take it up.
Okay, so during a pre-pandemic, things were different in terms of people. Organizations were looking out for people. People were also looking out for their job changes. But or during the pandemic and the post-pandemic, the market has really opened up, right? And there is a war for this talent, and everybody is wanting to look at how uh, they get the best out of what market is offering to the organizations. And at this same time, there are a lot of uh, I would say Generation Z and the Alpha generation, which is now coming into the professional world. They are looking at employment completely different. Okay, so I would say that as an employer, people will also look at changing the employment contract between an employee and an employer. They're going to be more stringent because people would want to be more of gig workers. And I mean, and location is not the place where it is centered. People can work from any part of the world today, right? And that's the best part. I mean, technology and digitization has brought us to a point where people can work from anywhere and yet perform and be a talent to be hunted for.
Good. So people can work from anywhere. That is this message. But how is it affecting the recruitment process? That is where we want to focus on. So people can really work from anywhere. How will we recruit so that we get the right talent in at the right time?
So,
Thank you. Okay, so I represent Intellect, and Intellect is a IT product development company. And all my life in HR, I've been with IT companies. So I've really been through the process from using OHPs, asking people to take those questions, notes, and then respond, to using stencils, to asking them to come in for in-person interviews. So I've been through the entire cycle. 6 years ago, we even tried the gamification, went to NITs, gave them a gamified examination in partnership with a third outsourcing agency. But I think every time, it's just not the pandemic. I think every change, you get smarter and you're able to identify the right talent, not just the talent. It comes with its own set of requirements, the attitude, the outlook, the commitment, the curiosity, whatnot. And I think we are evolving. And of course, with this last 2-3 years of changes that have happened, we are now forced to probably fasten some of these, which otherwise would have eventually happened. The curriculum changes for all of us in colleges and schools. So does the expectations from end customers. The software product changes. Everything changes, right? So there can be no excuse. If there is an inherent need for top-notch talent, we always have the best mechanism to identify that. And because it's a question of survival. So in the last, let's say, 8-10 months, this is what we have been doing. There are two things that drive, and my reference is going to be largely to the young talent, people who are getting into serious work first time or have taken a sabbatical for higher education, like most of you folks that are here. So what do we look for in them? So in our view, and which is a continuous learning, we have found there's a lot of appetite for challenge and gamification. We run hackathons, right? Now I have, I did bring my CTO, who is the beneficiary of all these talents. And we have moved away from boxing individuals to skill sets of what we want. We look at a common criteria. And this is spread across the country, right? So if we can give them a mix of flexibility, we get what we get in return is our ability to identify those talents. And then we find every reason to kind of, get them onboarded. So hackathons are one. We are moving away from specialized skill, looking for specialized skills, to looking for, horizontal skill sets that we know will be required. We can train them again in the future. And again, we have also kind of made it like a real-time test. And this is something that we do even for lateral hires, people who come with experience. If you are a coder, if you're an architect, if you're a business analyst, no matter what, we would just ask them from whichever part of the world. We have enough technology to help us to kind of run these tests, batteries of tests. Then we put them on a mechanism where you just take it now live. right? So we have become smarter in those processes also. I don't know, luckily for companies which are on the product lines, you don't hire in huge numbers in thousands because that's not your model. That's a services model. What we do is we need specialized hands. We have very specialized mechanisms. We gamify the entire thing. We have fairly a foolproof system, plus the flexibilities of letting them work from home for X period of time, or giving them bring your own device or whatever it is. So this kind of creates an overall ecosystem that promotes in-work recruitment strategies.
Okay. Shailene, do you want to? Saptarshi, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll talk about something a little different. So for us, it's very important that there is a cultural alignment with the organization, right? I think that's important because if the person needs to work with you, the cultural fit is important. So we have tried some of the technology-based solutions. We've used AI-based platforms, some of it successfully, some of it not so successfully. And the areas that we found that it was not very successful is that we have a lot of our employees in the regions, frontline. That's where the bread comes from. That's where the money lies, the sales force. They speak the local language. They connect with the customer in the local language. And English is not something that they're very good with. So most of these platforms don't offer you that flexibility. So we are looking for platforms that give you that flexibility. And hence, we can kind of use them more effectively. The other thing we do is at the senior level, we use a whole set of tools like psychometric tools, different ways of interviewing people. I hear, and I think we have a lot to learn from the IT industry because they're forerunners in this whole thing of attrition and replacement, quick replacement. And I hear that some of these organizations actually have a video which shows the role that the person is going to live through or work through. And it shows you how that role enacts in the workspace. So the person will understand, what am I getting into? So I think we need to look at it differently from what we were doing in the past and get in. So the way we handle the frontline sales is going to be very different. The way we handle the mid management and the senior management is going to be different. And the use of technology will have to be used. The kind of volumes that we are hiring to use technology platforms like onboarding tools, etc. Otherwise, we will not be able to track where the candidature is, why is it not closing. The need for speed is increased. So there is a need to kind of close fast, positions fast. If you don't close the offer quickly, someone else is willing to do that. So the need for closures, and that's where technology will play a leverage. So I think that's where it's all headed.
Wonderful.
Right. So I think one thing we need to also probably understand is that we always talk about what is that, what's our hiring strategy, but what is that the candidate wants? I think that becomes very important in the scheme of things. Now, I'll give you an example. If today as a Bajaj Allianz General Insurance, we have about 35 players in the general insurance space. We have about a few SAHI companies, standalone health insurance companies. We have around 60 to 70,000 employees in this sector. It's a fairly small sector when we compare, let's say, even life insurance or banking is of course much bigger. IT is much bigger. So because it's small and it's a little more specific in terms of the products that we sell, predominantly 90% of all general insurance company ka bread and butter comes from motor and health. So our typical line manager, मैं HR में यहाँ पे बैठ के कुछ भी बोलूँ, मेरा line manager बोलता है मेरे को GI का बंदा लेके दो. Now when it comes to that, and just Bajaj Allianz example is that last 6 months we've recruited close to 1,200 people. So we are making 200 to 400 offers every month. So for us, it's a totally different ball game. Now, if I tell my land manager that I'm going to limit this talent to this 60,000, because at the end of the day, I can tell you all of them will sympathize with me because you have the ICICI Lombards, Tata AIGs, HDFC Ergos, the Cholas and the Bajaj Alliances. We are the oldest players in the market, so we are the easiest targets in the market for any new player who comes in. It's good and bad because our employees get an opportunity. They know what their worth is in the market. I mean, look at it like that. You need to understand why is an employee leaving. The second is we also have to understand that candidates also have changed their expectations over the years. I can tell you 10 years back, I don't think any candidate would have, sorry to use the word, the audacity to come to any company and say, मुझे 50% hike चाहिए. That is not the case today. Right? Again, 10 years back, when I would come to a college to hire, normally I would do the interviews. Now it's the other way around. right? So I'm answering more questions in the interviews than you guys. कि आप बताओ profile क्या दोगे, location क्या दोगे, then I will decide whether I want to join Bajaj Allianz, right? See, all of you are nodding, so so I think that and so we need to understand that as the generations change, and I think the expectations change as well. So and from an employer's point of view as well, we no longer come with a vision that we want to hire a management trainee to make a 15-year career out of him. We know that you guys will want to probably move careers every 5 years, every 3 years. But in that period, are we able to give you what you want? Are we able to give you growth? Are we able to give you job satisfaction? So if you can basically zero down on the root cause of attrition, and no company in the world has been able to crack it, not even the Googles of the world. Okay, but at least if you're able to cut it by half, your job as a recruiter, my job becomes easier the moment the attrition stops, right? And like I said, in terms of expectations, what is it that we expect? I already addressed all of you I think about a month back. What do we expect from all of you? As far as fresher hiring is concerned, we don't expect you to come as specialists. We will teach you everything. We just need you to be flexible. We just need you to be agile. I know a lot of companies, and just a little bit of a counter on the work from anywhere bit. I know a lot of companies are talking about the fact that the COVID pandemic has taught us that people can work from anywhere. It's complete remote working. But you will read so many articles now where even traditional IT companies are now calling employees back because in some cases it didn't work, and that's something we need to accept. So it's one thing for us to say that, we are okay with anyone working anywhere. Maybe in Bajaj Allianz's context, that can work for 20% of the roles, but 70% of my workforce is sales. And a guy who's supposed to be selling insurance in Kolhapur can't work out of Bangalore. So, and that's a reality I think all of you also need to acknowledge. So don't, I know placement season is coming, and my only advice to the senior batches, don't go telling all the companies that I want to work out of Himachal. So, yeah, or Goa.
Who knows? There might be a big market there. Anything from you?
Yeah, so I think a lot, has been added on the topic, but I'll say this has changed in both the aspects. Is from the candidate side, as Saptarshi, just mentioned that expectation of candidate, has been changed completely. How you going to take care of my wellness? Will I get roster-based pattern to work? What kind of a increment are you giving me? What kind of a term insurance I'm going to have? How you gonna take care of the claims? Will I have? So there's like they comes with a long list now that they know that pandemic can come anytime. There would be a job crunch and maybe I'll be asked to go. So that fear a candidate is having in their mind. Um, on the other side, organization, when we are, as I said, that we are still not evolved, we have still not completely changed and not ready for the future world. We as an organization, we all of us, I'm sure everybody will agree, we have our own constraints. We have cost and budget constraints now. That's the biggest lesson for all the organization pandemic, that you can't invest and spend everything. You have to save something for the bad days. To be very honest, and there's nothing to scare you guys, when we used to hire 3,000 or 4,000, in the frontline base, those numbers have become the 50%. We are looking for more of a fungible resources, looking for a resources who are more adapting for a change. So the entire dynamics of recruitment has been changed. That's my experience. In last 2 years, I'll say last 3.5 years, I'm happened to work with NBFC Insurance, and I've just landed to a general insurance a month back, and I've seen that this thing was constant. For an organization perspective, I need a resource in my cost and budget. I do not have a vast budgets now. I want him to be skilled. I want him to be fungible and adaptive to the change. And just want to mention, just take a minute. One, in the hiring process, when we say the source of hiring, one huge change has come that the maximum hiring the organization wants to do it through the referral, right? Because when the crisis comes, if I got the my team member, I can rely on more on them. instead of if I'm hiring from the consultant. So that's a very big change has come, that organization wants to hire more and more management trainees or resources from their own references. So that's all from me.
Thank you. So better gear up with much better references, if that's the way it's going. Sir gave us a perspective, work from anywhere, reference-based technology. He talked more like a person on the floor recruiting every day. So he made some very important points. Sir, of course, told us the importance of gamification and all of that. But I think I want to have the last word on this topic. In the days when we went to campuses and made beautiful presentations to attract youngsters like you to come and join our companies, we talked about the company, Tata's great company, and then we talked about the compensation. We never talked about the role. Right? We would just say we are hiring MBAs or we are hiring engineers, and then in that wide basket, you are expected to do any job that comes. There is a major change coming up in the recruitment. Candidates want to know what will be my job. And that is a question I think most of you who are responsible for recruiting people, you have to be ready for that. Explain the role, be honest, buy their trust. That way you will have lesser rejections of your offers and more acceptance of the offers you all make. Because the statistics of offers given and people accepting, if somebody honestly gave you the numbers, it would be scary. That means the potential people looking for jobs have many more choices today. And they will exercise their choices based on from where I can work, based on the role that I'm grooming you for, based on what my future looks to me. And talking about Generation Z and Alpha, anyway, the couch in the mother's home is always available. If I don't like the job, I'll quit and I'll go. So if you really want a talented person, please be very clear of the job role you want to offer these people, at least when they join. So this is from me. Thank you very much for giving all of your views. Any one of you have a question on how to recruit? Because that's the first section we are finishing, and then we are moving on. Some statistic towards Rebound, there is one person being hired somewhere in the world every 15 seconds. That is the statistics for Rebound. So you can imagine how many vacant positions are there and how many people are there. And everything included, you can join as a gig, as a contractor, and in fact, some more. More women are applying and getting jobs than men. And of course, remote work. More people with opportunity to work from anywhere is interesting. One of the questions posed by the students was, what is the role of money in the recruitment process? With all your permission, can we take that question when we discuss compensation, or do you want the answer now? What is the role of compensation when youngsters are thinking about joining or not taking the offer?
So you're saying that the compensation should be a deciding factor to join or not?
It's a question in their mind.
Okay. So my take is, on this strategy, I would say, all of you are at the start of your career. You have many years to go, maybe 20 years, 25 years. It's a long journey. The right now, I mean, when you are getting any offer, you going for any interview, you have any offer in your hand, your strategy should be more is on that where I'm joining and what I'm going to do. And what is that I'm going to learn from this job, which is going to evolve my entire career. because your first 3 years of your career is going to set and going to make your graph, for next 15 years. So I would say that let's focus on the compensation right now, and the more focus should be on what value addition is going to, this job is going to get you. So that's my take. So, yes.
So I'll just add to that. Something came to mind. I come from Chennai, right? That's south of India, though I'm from Mumbai originally. So there's a saying that you must follow Saraswati first, Lakshmi follows. So follow the learning, and then the money will follow. It will follow. It has to happen. Time is a great thing. Time will bring the money. Don't worry. It's just that focus on an organization that gives you the learning experience, because your fundamentals, your basics will be set in that period, and then build on that base. So that's what I would just add to what Priyanka had to say.
Okay, so can I?
Yeah,
With the
please.
permission. So way back when the employment started and the industrialization happened, our forefathers joined an organization and worked there throughout their lives. What they were looking at is job security. What they were looking at, ठीक है मेरे को थोड़ा कम पैसा मिला तो भी चलेगा, but I have a job security. Today, the case is not that. Today, we have everybody who is coming out into the market is well educated. They are niche at times. Those talents are very niche. They are the ones who are at this point in time at a demanding position. So when they come to us and talk to us about the CTCs, they are well educated about what CTCs would be in a particular sector, in particular location, metros, major metros, and all of that. So when we start talking about the compensation, the first thing that comes is how much. Now, in that how much, also there are two parts. One is fixed and the other one is variable. So they are all aware. Now, more and more people are wanting to have an economic security these days and a social security. Social security, what Priyanka talked about, is Mediclaim. How many family members of my family will be covered under Mediclaim? What are the Mediclaim premiums or the value that I would get out of the organization? What is the life insurance that I'm covered on, and so on and so forth. So these are the ones which we will now start talking it as social securities from the organizations. This from this perspective. So organizations are going to talk about these more and more to come, and probably in future I would say that it would go as a regulation with the governments, which will be dominated, and which we will follow from, or see taking it from the West. So these are the things what we are looking at. The other things that the candidates would look at is the growth perspective. What is the organization doing in terms of building up my career? What are the kind of training programs that I would be sent to? How are my capabilities going to be enhanced? What are the projects that I would be handed over, or what are the responsibilities that I would be taking on? And trust me, these are the questions that are actually being asked by the candidates when they come to us. So people are getting more and more educated, and especially when we are talking about moving from those agreement to the consulting contracts, these will start becoming more and more prominent. Okay.
You want to add, or shall I?
Maybe
So-
just one small point here, saying that I think the one thing that candidates also look at is how the job. I mean, there is obviously 9 to 6. What is that you're going to be doing every day? But what are the extra things you get along with that job? Not just the benefits part of it. Do I get to travel? Now, some candidates, some employees, they love sales guys. They love traveling, taking flights, staying in hotels, exploring new cities, the foodies. I'm telling you, these things make a part of the entire job experience. My CEO told me this long back that Sapta, when you travel, you tell me where you're going and I'll tell you where to go and have a good meal. Because it's important to know कि यहाँ लखनऊ में actual original टुंडा कबाब कहाँ मिलता है, ठीक है? Because that's part of the whole experience. And that need not be the universal rule for all. I have candidates who tell me on my face, ki, sir, nahi, I'm not okay with traveling. So it's not like a one size fit all sort of a thing. Every candidate's expectations are different, and we need to somewhere cater to that sort of an ambiguous, individualized sort of an experience for employees.
I notice a lot of that happening. People do ask, okay, what is my compensation? Some of the members said maybe you should evaluate it on a long term, what will be my growth, and things like that. But the new candidates only want to know what will be my productivity? Will I be productive? How quickly am I going to go to the next level? And therefore, whatever the compensation. They also ask, can we negotiate on this compensation? Which is like a flat given at campuses. They say, but I would like to negotiate. At NIBM, I had a person who wanted the culture of SBI, but the salary of Yes Bank. And there was a lot of negotiation that happened for that. So these things are bound to happen, and I want to kind of at least caution the HR people, more and more of this is likely to happen. So that much on compensation on this thing. Lot of the panel members have talked about organization change in structure and in culture. But more important, structure. Nobody is going to sir or ma'am us anymore. I think we better start getting used to that fact. And your positions can be anywhere on the band depending upon your talent. I don't think today people are ready to say, अरे आपको 5 साल में GM बनना है, हमको तो 15 साल लगे थे. So, your views on that?
Right. Okay, so this is the interesting part, right? If we can find a solution to this, I think you've addressed your who are you hiring, is compensation important, and a whole lot of things, right? So, in my experience, I think in the current organization that we have, some of the best salespeople never started as salespeople. Some of well, I have the proof of the pudding in the eating, right? So my CTO didn't start as that position, right? So obviously he grew to the ranks. I have several of the success stories. People who believed in themselves, people who are willing to commit, people who are willing to stretch, be curious learners who are patient, and an organization culture that that we provide was even more important because we follow these 4 rules of passion, humility, integrity, and respect. I'm just going to talk about humility. Humility is when we are willing to learn. This is an organizational belief that we practice. The learning doesn't necessarily come from the heaven or top above. It comes from all directions. So one of the USPs that I seriously consider is if I have an environment that promotes a healthy learning on all directions, whether you're a fresh MBA grad or we hired you from a different industry or from a different stream, if we can give you that patient hearing and we can work together as a team, I think there's a lot of value. And some of the best in class products that we are selling in the North Americas were all because of some of these things that I'm just mentioning. And that has become a core streamline of business revenue for us. The ideas were generated by people who weren't even on those lines. They were probably pure play technologists who were willing to stretch and talk to somebody else in some other team, think differently. And then the organization gave that space for them to come and demonstrate, do some white papers. We'll help you. If the idea is great, we'll work on with you. And that's how great organizations are built. All right. So one of the questions that a candidate should also have in mind is how important are my ideas? Even during interviews you can get it, right? I mean, when I ask you questions, the way you respond is also an indication of how much time you have for me. Right? You don't assure and push things through that. But that's number one. So the willingness to learn from each other across, no matter at what seniority or whatever you are, the second aspect. Third is an organization that provides growth which is vertical. I can always take only IT terminology. Sorry, I'm a developer. I want to become a lead. Then I become a project manager, so on and so forth. Yeah, okay. But then no, I want to go into the technology team. this is one standard thing. Any technical institute that I go and I say, what do you want to do? This standard question, right? What do you want to do 5 years from now? General manager, or I want to be a project manager. Nobody talks about technology as a stream, but you're trained and hired for that. Right now, things are changing, obviously, but then an organization that can give that kind of a movement. Right? You might be a developer today. You can always go to the tech lead and become an architect, and these are the backbones of the organization. Or no, I would like to eventually move more towards a customer-facing role. Well, I don't like to show demos. I don't want to sell, but I would like to be a great pre-sales person. So these structures in place promote, rapid movements, and people are made aware. And that's why we also fill a lot of internal positions. And most of the conversations that we have, what otherwise is called as a performance, an appraisal period, we call it as performance development dialogue, captures these elements, right? So this has been very critical from a culture standpoint, from a talent grooming standpoint, and ability to retain talent, more importantly. And therefore, in my view, compensation is important. But what is even more important is, what will you do 5 years, 10 years from now? And is this organization the right kind of an organization to kind of propel your dream to make it a reality?
Anyone wants to add to this?
Yeah, I can. So I think I'll just give again, I'll cite a few examples from Bajaj Allianz. I think what we did was that, again, what is that people want? Obviously, growth and promotions. Typically, every company will have fairly strict norms around promotion, because they'll have 3 years of performance rating. They might have, multiple checks on that. And it becomes at times a little bureaucratic, saying that, हाँ, मैं assistant manager बन गया, deputy manager बनने में तो और 3 साल है. Let's look out in the market, maybe I get a DM role right away. So what we did differently in Bajaj Allianz was that we actually brought in an IGP-based promotion cycle. There were also encouraging people to move their domain. So you would have heard so many roles are getting automated. Underwriting is getting automated. A motor underwriter today probably, if we had 200 people earlier, we just need 30 now. So what do we do with those motor underwriters? Just because the role is getting redundant doesn't mean that we let them go. They're good talent. They're in your company. They have the domain knowledge. So we started encouraging them to actually take on different domain roles within the same company, even at a higher level. So today, within 18 months, you can get promoted to the next level if you are willing to take on a different role. And we have people who've become assistant managers, deputy managers, senior managers in as short a span as 6 or 7 years, because they've moved fields. And today that guy knows bancassurance sales, he knows broking sales, he's probably done a stint in corporate communications for, all I know, and today he's probably moving to HR. And we are absolutely okay to let that happen. Because at the end of those 10 years, 12 years, that guy is really, he's not a, jack of all trades, master of none. He's a master of that many trades. And that really has worked well for us. I'll give you my own example. I'm an HR, I'm a Bajaj Allianz DNA HR professional, 15 years in the same company. I've moved roles every 3 years. Today, I'm working very closely with the reinsurance team on the project. I didn't know the R of reinsurance in a technical manner. And I'm loving it, because it's a completely new area for me to, explore. It's not that I'm moving in, but I'm working on a project with them. And this is happening right from the junior most level. So today we have, we launched this policy last April during the pandemic. And last April was when, second wave and all that, it was really not the best time to launch a, promotion policy. But in this 1.5 years, we've had 1,000 internal movement promotions in the company, in a company of 7,000 employees. So absolutely phenomenal success rate. It's actually reduced attrition. It's actually made people a lot more agile to move departments, move locations. Working well.
So I just go back to the question what Asha mentioned, that the candidates, you all of you have in your mind that how will I grow and how the structure is going to support me. So 10 years back, or maybe 15 years back, when some of us must have started our career, हम शायद तब नहीं सोच सकते थे that I've joined as a management trainee and I'll become AVP or a DVP in a 5 years time or a 6 years time, right? It was a very different scenario. We had a very less, pressure from the MNCs and a lot of less competition. Now the scenarios have, completely changed. It's like evolved. lot of companies are there, multiple industries are there. It's a different scenario. And at the same time, with the pace, organizations will have, wherever you will join, one, you will have a vertical growth. Second, you'll have a horizontal growth. You will have those, internal job postings that all of you can, change your jobs. You can change your profile. You can go from underwriting to claims, from sales to HR. I mean, you can do anything if you want to do it. uh, if I'll say that, you know uh, uh, how faster you will grow, or how faster these things will work, I just have a one point to make here, which I always tell to my employees or any of the new youngsters who comes to me. It is all about your potential and your performance. Just always remember, no organization let go of any performer or any talented employee. Yeah, so that's all from my side.
So good. I think all these comments are telling all of you remain agile, keep doing different things, growth will come. If your company doesn't give you, there are other companies. So, growth, agility, continuously keeping yourself at the top of your game, that is what is going to help. This has come from the heads of HR themselves. So, it will be in practice, and there is nothing to worry about. Structures have changed in our discussions. One second, I'll just finish. Organization structures are becoming very different. They are becoming flatter. They were always flat in the IT industry. Several of these industries are saying now let them become flatter. People can move at least horizontally, if not vertically. And in that, there is a lot of growth. So, as you are looking for your new jobs from a recruitment point of view, do check out the companies and see how much movement happens in those companies before you all make up your mind. Go ahead.
One last thing at this point in time, especially for all these new batches, you need to be patient with any organization that you are working for, because that patience is going to pay for. Once you start a job in an organization, it takes some time for you to settle down. By the time you settle down is when you start making your mind on that organization, or should I move ahead. By the time you start giving back to the organization and understand what is it that you have given has made an advantage to the organization, will take a few years to even, for you to even understand that you have contributed to the organization. And I'm sure organizations are looking at retaining their talent and making enough efforts to make sure that the talent is retained. And if you're one amongst them, I'm sure you will get the kind of growth that you will have. So patience is something which you should have.
I think in the great rebound, we were all losing patience. This is a good advice. Let's start learning to be patient, because everything will not happen in the next 2 weeks. But this is the effect of the pandemic. More choices, less people, certainly less talented people. But he is absolutely right. Let's learn to be patient and we will get there. Moving on to the next topic. Organization change. Structures are becoming flatter. Your views on that? We all have been working typically in structures where you start at one level, then take 3 years, then take another 3 years, then take another 5 years. Are we still going to do the same thing?
If I may add to the topic, see, the fact is that the external environment is changing, and it's changing very rapidly. The regulator brings in some regulations, there's a change. The market wants something different, there's a change. What our experience has been that the organization structure keeps changing practically every year. We create, we destroy, we recreate, we destroy, we keep doing that. So then what happens to the employees within that? So I think it's important that first is we shed our fear of failure, because we will have to try something new, and there's something that's going to come up as an opportunity, and we should not let go of the opportunity. The other thing is that we should try and add a new skill. At least I remember one of my seniors telling me, try and add one new skill to yourself every year. And if you can do that, you can be flexible in terms of moving across roles, across organizations. So I've been a beneficiary, started off as a tea plantation manager. Today I'm heading HR in an insurance company. Never imagined in my lifetime I'll be doing that. But that's where the road has taken me, and that's where I've gone along. So I think the important thing is keeping yourselves flexible, keeping yourselves agile, learning new skills, willing to experiment, willing to try something new, and importantly, from the organization perspective, giving you that parachute that if it doesn't work, don't worry, you land safely. My current managing director was telling me that he was the CFO of the company. He moved to the head of technical. And then the director of finance in the group told him, go take that role. It's going to be good for you to learn. And don't worry, if you can't do well, you can always come back to your old role. So that's the structure in terms of, support from a parachute point of view. I think organizations that give that comfort to employees that you can make those shifts, changes horizontally or vertically, try. Don't worry if you fail and fall, will work. So that's what I would like to add.
So good. Be ready to take risks. That is going to be the thing we will live with as we move in the rebound situation. Anything from you?
On the structure bit, yes, I think we also learn, as like Sir said, that we learn when certain things go our way and certain things don't. In Bajaj Allianz, we had a very traditional office setup. So we had 200 physical offices with a branch manager. The branch manager reported to a zonal manager. The zonal manager reported to a national head of geography, who reported to the MD and CEO. And in 2018, we felt, that's too many layers. We want to cut down on that. And we came up with something called verticalization, where we said, you know what, we don't need a branch manager, we don't need a zonal manager, we don't need a national head of geography. Let that team member in bank assurance sitting in Warangal directly report to someone who's sitting in maybe Hyderabad or in Pune. And it worked for us. It gave us very aggressive growth for the first couple of years. But when the pandemic happened, we realized that, there was no connect between the person sitting in Pune versus his team of 200 people across the country. And we actually, this April, we launched back a geo model where we reopened 66 branches in tier 2 and 3 towns. Because what we also realize is it's not about cutting down on layers. The junior most employee sitting in Warangal wants to see a branch manager in Warangal who can support him on his day-to-day activities. So every time, maybe cutting down on a layer isn't a bad thing, but ensuring that you do that with support is, I think, very critical. And that statement by Sir is so powerful that, that failure we learned, we didn't take it on our ego that humne kiya hai, so we'll continue doing this. We realized that, what, maybe going back to a geography model is going to help us in the long run. And we can already see the benefits in the first 6 months of the financial year. A lot more control, a lot more, and the businesses that we are in, control and compliance is so important, so critical. So I mean, we brought back some hierarchy there, but it's working for us.
So we talked about, you were mentioning about the whole culture and how we bring in people. None of you mentioned it, but I'm sure you were making references to this wonderful HR program called mentoring. If we can even start assigning mentors to people before they join, non-acceptance of offers will go down a lot. Because people do take 1 month to 3 months to join. Who is holding the hand of the person during that period? Again, this project worked extremely well in the IT industry, and some of those, if they are brought, non-acceptance of offers will go down greatly. So all of these youngsters, do try and look for a mentor in the companies you are joining. Look for a role model to follow. Try and have dialogues with them. These are the things that are absolutely necessary in the post-pandemic culture. In the 2 years of pandemic, we lost all that human connect. And so now we move to the last part of our conversation. So much technology. How are we going to keep the human connect alive? Everything is on technology. Put on the laptop, sit over there. Are you working? Are you minding something else? It's very, very different now. I was just telling that I was doing competency assessment for a bank in Kathmandu. We were doing the assessment, and a little beautiful girl was running all over. And I said, "Do you want to postpone this?" She said, "No, no, you just ignore her. That's okay." So we all are learning new different things. How do we keep that human connect? Because some of the HR activities really require that connect. So all of you referred a lot to the technology that you all are using to make work easier, but how is it going to affect employee engagement? This is a question from one of the participants. Employee engagement, employee evaluation, employee, all the E's of HR. How will we keep it going? Because that will affect the decision of the people to join. Even the recruitment, is it so technology driven that you didn't feel that personal connect at all? So
Sure. Okay. So I don't think there's a straight answer for this question, but I think we'll have to do a lot of soul searching and we learn on the way, right? So two things. So we'll go back to pandemic. I'm personally pretty sick of making reference to that, but I think that's where everything started, honestly, right? So when we went to this mode of Google Connects and ensuring everybody logs in, we were disciplinarians in our own right way, and we started tracking. But then what happened at some point when we had the 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 amount of devastation that it brought down to people, and my reference again is to our own staff and their families. Initially, it was staff and then the families. Everybody equally helpless. At some point, the organization had to stand up and extend. It's not just about you sitting in front of a laptop and trying to contribute something and getting your monthly salaries, but there's a human, element to everything that we do. So I think the organization woke up, stood up to its cause. We did so many things, including taking up hospitals, service apartments, chauffeuring doctors, making people stand in the queue for getting remdesivir when people were even struggling to get out of the home to buy their groceries. So I think the organization is first and foremost aware, and I'm sure every organization, be it a Bajaj or a TCS or an Infosys, I think we put our human values number one, right? So there is nothing to compromise, or it's never going to vanish. So that's one thing that we all need to believe. The second thing is, you're right. Engagement is of two types. Engagement is generally in the HR parlance, engagement, it's how do I engage an associate on a job to ensure that he or she is making the best and is able to contribute. So you make the job interesting, the role interesting, rewards, and then it goes on from there, right? And the other engagement, how you have the people connect. Now, we used to do this thing called an intellect day, which used to be a one-day affair where globally across people were this used to happen from morning. It was generally the business sessions, afternoons were the cultural sessions, completely driven by the associates. We said, okay, here's an opportunity. We will do an intellect fest, not an intellect day. So that spread over 3 weeks, and we said, now get the families to upfront. So we started becoming creative. We said, okay, families, you've all been very supportive of our staff. Now you get coming there, kids, in fact, celebrating personal milestones during those 3 weeks, getting them to do a lot of singing and dancing and arts and competition. So people were happy to be part of a family. See, there are limitations, but we haven't forgotten those elements. But we are still using technology to extend and cover and remind people this is equally important. So that's again coming back to the child running in Kathmandu, right? So it happens, but then you will need both. And I think the ability to strike the balance between the both and not to forget the human connect is very important.
Yeah, but you see, particularly when we are talking of recruitment, everything is so technology driven. How do you get to know the person, or more important, the person gets to know the person who was interviewing him or her? Because in large organizations, my first interview could be taken by him, second one by him, and the job offer is given by a third person. So where is the connect? If I have a query or a question, whom do I go to? I mean, suppose I have to send an email or something, but this is my view. I'm sure you all are using methods of overcoming it, but that is the question, that at least in the HR function, can you keep the HR connect? Or is it all going to be done through technology?
So, yeah.
Sorry, I'll have to go.
Just a quick thought on this. Uh, yes, it's a problem. You know, when we are more into an automation and AI world, uh, you know, it's an issue. However, we have done a very small things. I will talk about my last two organizations. Yeah. So, you know, when we started hiring at any level, you know, it's be it Bharti X or Aditya Birla Capital, and even in Ergo, uh, we have a separate onboarding team. You know, it's become a challenge before a candidate joins. You know, today offer drop ratio is from 10% is increased to a 40%, I will say. Yeah, but this is a some bit of what we are doing. We need to evolve in this process. Yes, definitely. We need to, you know, maybe move on to some kind of a processes where he has somebody whom he can touch between at least, you know, out of 24 hours, out, you know, at least 18 hours, he can touch base with somebody. So that's my.
Okay, so as far as engagement is concerned, organizations have to rethink about their policies, each and every policy. You start from a work from home policy, you start looking at the leave policies. So all of these small things you have to start looking at. You have to look at what is it that you're going to do to make sure that onboarding, as what Priyanka was saying, is made so efficient that person coming on board on the first day feels that he has come home. Okay, that's the kind of a feeling that he knows everything. The day he lands in the office, his birthright, you mean to I mean to say birthright is what are the accesses that he needs to have, are the ones which he should be given on the first day. That's what's going to make him feel comfortable. Yeah, so I'm just coming to that. When we are looking at these policies, we need to make sure that these policies are more owned by them, owned by the managers. We have to make sure that these managers are able to convey these policies and the benefits and everything that a person can have is should be at his fingertips. Now, when we are looking at all these policies, the candidate who is going to come on board is going to look at what are the principles and values of the organization. Now, these principles and values of the organizations has to be walked out. These are the ones which we should always talk about. These are the ones which we should always inculcate in our day-to-day practice. That's going to make him feel more comfortable, connected to the culture. And more so when he is on board, the least that we can do is make him feel that whenever you are in need, we will stand by you as your family. And if that is conveyed, the employee or all the employees in the organization stay engaged and stay connected to the organization.
If we can make all of you feel wanted during the pre-joining stage, then you all will start believing that there is real employee engagement that is happening in the company as well. So the focus needs to be at that very delicate period when we are engaged but not married yet. So that is a little bit lacking these days because of the overriding use of technology. But like Sir said, managers, Mr. Narayan Murthy said, I don't need a HR department. Every manager of mine is a HR person. Again, he alluded to that. Managers need to take charge. So if you do find any of the managers you are working with, they are not responding, that gives you an idea of the engagement. So some of these are issues of technology. Two more issues of technology before I will leave it open to everybody to give their final comments. Moonlighting, work from home, moonlighting, how do we take care about that? That is one thing. And some of the candidates before joining have a question about data security. how secure will be our data, the work that we have put in effort on, particularly when we start working from home. So anyone wants to give a view on that?
Yeah, I think again going back to the pandemic, because I mean last year I remember when I participated in that, where I think the whole thing was, how are we fighting the pandemic, and now it's good that we're actually talking of it in the past. But I think a few learnings from that did come. I mean, as much as we as an organization wanted to be there for our employees, as much as we as an organization want to be there for our customers, there were frauds. There were not just by customers, even by employees. Uh, Moonlighting versus, let's say, dual employment. I mean, what really is a moonlighting at the end of the day? We so on the one hand, we were more than happy to actually promote a culture of gig with with part time, with people working from anywhere, working only 4 hours, half day, half pay sort of a concept. But when we had cases, very interesting case where we actually had an one of our competitors wrote to us saying that this employer of yours is also working with us, and the most amazing thing was he was performing in both the companies very well. So very hypo guy, well rated and all of that. But I think the one thing that came with virtual working was the compliance. And as HR, as management, as managers, I think we realized that people did take advantage of that as well. So we have a dedicated department called IILM, which is Internal Investigation Loss Mitigation, and we actually got to know of frauds that happened, customers lodging fake claims hand in hand with our employees. And because it was so virtual and so much over dependence of technology, we had to go back, take a couple of steps back, and put in another level of check, bring in areas where we get red flags around that. We're still actually getting a lot of COVID claims 1.5 years down the line, and I think that bit, and the human connect that came in the previous question is so relevant in this context. Do you really want an employee who's working virtually but who's not met his manager for 1.5 years? So it is a question you need to ask yourself as an organization, that are we okay with that? Is the employee okay with that? Because we are in the business of settling claims. We are not in the business of selling insurance. And when our customers need us, is in the hospital, is in the garage, when something bad has happened to him. We keep saying the insurance is the one industry that really prays for the well-being of its customers. So while for all of you it's WhatsApp forwards, the Bangalore floods, for us it's my bonus going. Okay, so I think so when that happens, we need to be there for our customers physically, ensuring, at least giving them a call saying that, what, we know आपके साथ ये हुआ है, we are there to take care of all of this. The same level of connect needs to be there from the management, from HR to our employees, to actually give them that assurance that, what, yes, you are working remotely, but we are there for you. And it's not just about giving them that assurance over a phone call. It's really going the extra mile and showing through your policies and the changes that you bring to your policies that we're really there for you. I mentioned to all of you last time that not a single employee in Bajaj Allianz lost his job because of COVID. And that goes a long way to really show the culture of an organization, because the good old saying, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Are we there for our employees when the things really went bad? So yeah, I'll rest with that.
I think we are coming to almost the end of the session. Can I ask if any one of you have any specific question to anyone on the panel? Most of the questions that were sent to us we have covered, but if there is something still a little unclear, you can pose the question to anyone. Yes, please. Yeah, both of you. Because
this is not a performance based parameter that you can work from home or you have to work from office. I think it is more of a functional base. Okay, so I'll just give you a small example. For example, you must have read about claims in insurance. Now, claims in underwriting is something which is more of a back end job, where it's a less customer facing. Maybe if you're joining any XYZ organization, they can put those functions into a work from home pattern, maybe in a 70-30 kind of a ratio. So there is nothing to do with the performance when we go to work from home.
So it is more focused on the goals that a person has rather than whether you are working from home or not. Any last points? Question from? No.
Some other question.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. One of the widely used employee management strategies is incentivization. But the problem with the prevailing system is that it could not work very well. And as this could extinguish intrinsic motivation, it's suppressing creativity and encouraging shortcuts as well. So how can the HR department work around this, or what other strategy could be substituted for end this entire problem?
I always believe that you must incentivize behaviors that you want to encourage. That's an approach that works well.
Yeah, and honestly, the insurance industry works on incentivization. It's worked brilliantly from the decades of LIC, even for their IMDs, for their agents. For us, it's worked very well for us. I think employees look forward to not just the incentive amounts, but also campaigns, going abroad for trips and things like that. I think it's one of the biggest motivators for our employees. So.
Also, as the demand for compensation arises, a portion of the variable pay also increases, because no organization wants to give away money without getting things in return. So whether you call variable pay or incentives, it will always be linked with the job and your performance. Yeah.
One very interesting point we've done, this one small point in Bajaj Allianz, is that we all believe we are in the business of selling insurance. So whether you're in sales or not, you sell a insurance policy. Even in HR, if I sell an insurance policy, I get an incentive for it. So we encourage everyone to sell. And the important message in that is that you shouldn't be embarrassed in selling your company's product. If you work for a Mercedes Benz, you will not think twice about going and pitching that to a customer. So why should you, so when I meet my friends, पहले मजाक बनता था यार तू तो वापस बेचने आ गया. I said नहीं बेचने नहीं आया हूँ. Please understand, today, if you don't have a health insurance, you need it. And that's why I give you all that example of mobile insurance. I'm sure none of you bought it till now. So please go back and buy a mobile insurance policy from Bajaj Allianz and Cholamandalam. So and Argo, sorry.
Good. So we are ending this panel discussion. Some wonderful thoughts. I'm sure it's going to help all of you youngsters as you start looking at getting yourselves recruited. Thank you very much for a wonderful afternoon. I'm thanking all of you on the behalf of the entire panel. Thank you.
Thank you, all the experts, for your valuable insights, and also thank you for engaging such a wonderful discussion. Now, I would like to request my colleagues to please come forward and present the token of gratitude to the experts. Thank you, everyone.